So we went from rangefinder to rifle, and no one saw him? How does that make you sleep at night? On July 13th, Thomas Crooks went to the rally site in the morning. He was there for an hour and then he left, but came back around 3:50 to fly his drone around the area Donald Trump would be giving his speech. Then around 5:04, he was seen on video walking in front of the AGR building near the magnetometers, where people were being scanned for weapons before entering the outdoor venue. And new video shows Crooks pacing just beyond the boundaries of the Trump rally at 5:14, and somehow 90 minutes before the shots were fired, a sniper at the AGR building takes a picture of him. Between the time he was spotted near the magnetometers and when Crooks allegedly fired at Trump, there were two sets of radio transmissions. One reporting that police were looking for a suspicious person, and another more generic warning that officers were following up on something suspicious. And by 5:28, law enforcement takes another picture of a bicycle in what appears to be a backpack located near the AGR building, but it's still unclear what happened to the bicycle and backpack afterwards or what was inside. The same sniper spots Crooks looking at his phone and using a rangefinder, so the sniper sent a message to the sniper group chat about the suspicious activity. So they singled Crooks out for not actually entering the rally and pointing the rangefinder toward where Donald Trump was going to give his speech. And around 5:41, Sniper 1 is told to call into command, which the sniper did and provided a description of the suspicious person with a rangefinder who was lurking around the AGR building. And during all this time, he wasn't confronted by law enforcement. Why? We all know exactly why. This was relayed in an interview that was in the command post to the Secret Service, but it wasn't until 5:52 that the Secret Service sniper had eyes on the suspicious person, which was about 20 minutes before Crooks began firing. Then he was spotted on the roof by Secret Service at 6:02. Even though he purchased a ladder before the shooting, officials claim he did not use it to scale up the building and it was not at the crime scene. It's hard to believe that that scrawny little weird kid had the strength or athletic ability to physically climb that ductwork from the air conditioner carrying a loaded semi-automatic rifle. At the time, the building was being used as a staging area for local police, who were inside the building, but more specifically, how did they not hear him on the roof? You can literally hear a single drop of rain on a metal roof like that. Secret Service counter-snipers positioned on the buildings close to the rally stage were aware the AGR building was being used as a staging area by local law enforcement, and investigators believe that that could have led to a delay in the Secret Service snipers' reactions because they had to figure out whether their suspect was a threat or another law enforcement agent. There were bullets flying and people were dying. The snipers had a perfect view of him. It's not hard to see a huge ball of fire coming out of a gun that is being fired. It's just not. That's why snipers use silencers just to help muffle the sound of the shot but drastically reduce the fireball that comes out of the end of the barrel. I've been shooting since I was 4 years old, and I can assure you if you are looking at what you're supposed to be looking at, you could not miss someone crawling or climbing on a roof, especially after Crooks started firing. It's just impossible to miss. To me, that's one of the most important questions, is why it took the sniper that long to acquire the target and fire back. The only explanation is they let him, or planned for this to happen, because they wanted Donald Trump dead. That's the only way that I can see it, as political warfare. It's definitely not the first time our government has tried to kill a president. That's a fact. I couldn't walk to the end of my street with a gun before the police showed up, so explain to me how he got that gun from his vehicle to the rally site and onto the roof. Crooks' barrel is at least 16 inches long, but it looks closer to an 18-inch barrel, or upper receiver as most people know it. Investigators even found a remote transmitter in his pocket that was intended to set off two suspicious devices found in his car and one in his home. The gun stock may break down and the gun breaks into two parts, but there's still no way in hell that that would ever fit into that backpack. Explosives at the rally in his house were built the same way, with ammunition containers using components including receivers that appear to have been paired with the remote control found in Crooks' pocket. And the receivers in each device were connected to a series of components that investigators say meet the eye test, which means it had parts that could have made viable explosives. But if he's going to murder people on national TV, there's no doubt in my mind he intended to cause harm and hurt people and not for a diversion. Investigators also found a tactical vest in his car, but he did not wear it during the assassination attempt, probably because he anticipated dying in the attack, or he was afraid he would stand out even more. Did law enforcement look the other way? Sure does seem that way. It's highly suspicious that at this point it almost makes you think they let it happen, then killed him because dead men can't talk. Crooks bought the ammo at a local gun store on the day of the shooting, but the remote control devices attached to homemade bombs were left in the off position. The 3 devices were pretty crude, but they definitely had the ability to be detonated remotely. The only way any of that is possible is if he had help from people who are in the business of killing people. It's that simple. There's no way he did it alone. And I'd love to see the doorbell camera footage of all his neighbors in the months leading up to this and who inside our own government put this plan into action, because the evidence is there. It's just whether or not the government gets their hands on it first. Thomas Crooks did not blend right into the crowd of people, and he was definitely not wearing a MAGA hat or a sign that says "Keep America Great." Even to the casual observer, he stood out. But he was a terrorist on a mission, driven by a twisted sense of democracy and led by the far left. Crooks was recruited by a group that promised to rid the nation of a possible tyrannical leader. They fed him propaganda, fueling his anger and convincing him that the only way to save the country was to eliminate Donald Trump. But Crooks was just a pawn, nothing more. The plan had probably been in motion for months, orchestrated by a terrorist group within the Democratic Party. They believed they were acting in the nation's best interest, but the line between patriotism and treachery blurred a long time ago. With so many questions that are left unanswered, I can only imagine a dimly lit room with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris debating pronouns, sitting across from each other with the glow of a television screen showing live footage of the Pennsylvania rally, leaning toward each other saying, "Are you sure this will work?" At this point, I don't know if I could believe anything other than this was planned assassination by the far left, not just Crooks. And this won't be like movies, where we find out how, why, and who is actually behind all of this, because he had help. There's no doubt about that. How can we expect to get to the truth when they're investigating themselves? You seriously can't be that naive. Friends and family have been stabbing each other in the back since the beginning of time, and this is no different. It's the simple differences between good and evil. Now, as Trump took the stage, the crowd erupted into cheers, and the president waved, smiling from full ear to full ear for the moment, then began a speech. But Crooks inched closer. The weight of the gun and detonator was a constant reminder of what he planned to do. The plan was simple: create chaos, take the shot, and escape in the ensuing pandemonium. But as he neared the clearing of the roof, good humans saw him and started to scream, and in that moment, during the roar of the crowd and the flashing lights, a shot was taken that would be heard around the world. Are you trying to tell me a 20-year-old got off that many shots before the best military force in the world fired one? The coincidences are too ridiculous to ignore. Not a single Secret Service agent has been disciplined or fired. Kim Cheadle finally resigned, and the FBI director doesn't even think Donald Trump was shot, which the agency had to correct themselves afterwards. But the shooter was identified as suspicious before the rally even began. Then no one even confronted him, probably because they were trying to figure out the correct use of a pronoun. We all know it's an agency that can't even define a him or her, much less the difference between suspicious or a threat. The far left would even have you believe it's a gun problem, and not the evil that spews from their own mouths, indoctrinating children and adults, lying to them, when in reality it's a problem with the wrong people in positions of power and those same evil people pushing their evil terrorist agendas. This was a day that would become etched in American history, not for its headlines, but for the whispers that followed. And in the middle of global tyranny, a plot was unfolding, a plot to assassinate the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. It's political warfare with secrets and layers so deep you'd swear I was talking about Russia, China, or even North Korea. But this isn't any of that. It's a reality about terrorists inside and outside the US government and an assassination attempt that almost changed the course of history forever, with twists and turns through the nation's most iconic residence, the White House. On a day just like any other, beneath what seemed to be perfect political protocol, an unseen hand moved with evil intentions. How did Crooks get on the roof? How did no one see him with the gun until he was on the roof? Because there's no way that rifle was going to fit in that backpack. How did this plan almost succeed right under the noses of the world's strongest security forces? These questions lead us down a rabbit hole of impossibilities and conspiracies where at this point, is there anyone who believes that this wasn't a direct and planned assassination attempt from the far-left Democratic Party? They've taken a page right out of the communist playbook. If you can't beat them, just assassinate them. The hidden connections and silent betrayals that define this deadly game of cat and mouse, from the meetings to the communications that evaded detection, each piece of this puzzle reveals a story more gripping and chilling than the movies. I pray for Fire Chief Corey Comparator's family and friends, and for the 2 surviving victims, David Dutch and James Copenhaver, and all of their family and friends. I'm praying for you each and every day. Thanks for watching.